I've never believed in ghosts or the paranormal. But when I entered room 612 of the abandoned Grand Royal Hotel on the outskirts of town, I felt an ominous chill slither down my spine. Outside, the full moon cast an eerie glow on the crumbling walls. I wished I hadn't taken this dare from my friends to spend the night here. Welcome to the Spinethrills channel, where your nightmares come true. Legend says the hotel is haunted by its dark past, and in the 1930s, a doctor conducted twisted experiments on patients here, trying to unlock the mysteries of the human psyche. He would pull out teeth, nails, even organs, while they were alive and conscious. When some patients tried to escape, the doctor brutally murdered them with an axe. Their blood-curdling screams echoed through these halls before being silenced forever. The doctor eventually went mad himself, murdering his staff and countless patients in a final psychotic rampage before slitting his own throat. Since then, guests have reported ghostly apparitions stalking the halls, spectral voices crying out, and banging coming from inside the walls. The town condemned the hotel long ago, but legends persist that the doctor's evil spirit still haunts it, continuing his demented experiments on anyone who dares to enter. I shook the chill from my bones and laughed nervously to myself. They were just stories, harmless myths. I locked the door to my suite and climbed into bed, struggling to ignore the overpowering odor of stallness in the room. It was after midnight, and I was exhausted. I quickly drifted off to sleep, figuring it would be morning that much sooner. Jolted awake a few hours later, I sensed a presence nearby. Heavy breathing filled the room. I froze as the sound of shuffling footsteps slowly circled the bed. My heart pounded. "Who's there?" I called out shakily. My question met with eerie silence. Had I imagined it? I reached for the lamp switch, but it wouldn't turn on. That's when I saw it at the foot of the bed, a lone, disembodied hand crawling towards me. I leapt up with a yell and sprinted for the door. Just as I grasped the knob, an invisible force slammed against it, sealing me in. I spun around, backing against the blocked exit. "What do you want from me?" A raspy voice whispered directly into my ear. "I want your eyes, your fingers, and most of all, your brain." The frigid breath on my skin made me shudder. Suddenly, the door flew open, and I was shoved to the floor in the dark hallway. I picked myself up and ran aimlessly, turning random corners to escape the phantom stalking me. But each hall looked identical, an endless maze from which I couldn't escape. Rounding a corner, I came face to face with a ghostly orderly dressed in blood-splattered scrubs. Dark, lifeless eyes stared right through me. I jerked back as he lurched forward, arms outstretched. I turned and ran, his chilling moans seeming to follow me. I burst through a set of double doors into a giant abandoned operating room. A rusted hospital bed sat in the center, leather straps hanging open, stained dark with old blood. The phantom orderly blocked the exit behind me. I was trapped. Heavy footsteps echoed from the shadows. A tall figure emerged. It was the mad doctor himself, still adorned in his filthy surgical garb. "You'll be my next subject," he scowled, raising a scalpel. I scanned the room for any escape, any weapon to defend myself. The doctor moved in closer, backing me against the grimy tiled wall. "Where should we start?" "Perhaps a lobotomy is in order," he grinned wickedly. As he raised the scalpel, I ripped an IV stand from the wall and swung it at him with all my strength. But my makeshift weapon passed straight through the doctor's body, not even slowing his approach. He grabbed my shoulder with an icy grip. "Let's see what's inside that mind of yours," he hissed, bringing the scalpel to my eye. Just as the tip pierced my skin, an ear-splitting alarm blared through the building, making the doctor recoil. "No, not yet," he yelled out. "I need more time." His form flickered like a bad projection. Suddenly, he and the orderly vanished, leaving me alone as red lights flashed brightly through the now open door from down the halls. I moved cautiously into the corridor, following the alarm's echo. Rounding another corner, I came upon a heavy wooden door left slightly open, the alarm blaring out from whatever room was behind the door. Hands shaking, I pushed it open. Inside was a security room lined with old CCTV monitors, all powered on, but displaying only static. In the center sat a dusty control panel, including a shut-off switch for the alarm. The alarm seemed to have activated some old emergency system designed to contain the supernatural beings. Now I understood why the doctor had recoiled at the noise. It was clearly meant to trap the spirits, somehow causing them anguish. As I reached cautiously for the switch, the screens blinked, suddenly showing crystal clear footage from cameras throughout the abandoned hotel. On every monitor, spectral figures stalked the halls, the mad doctor, his orderlies, his tortured patients, all of them flickering violently, writhing in silent agony. Perhaps another spirit had triggered the alarm to help me. I recalled local legends mentioning a kind nurse who had tried protecting patients from the doctor's cruelty. Her compassionate soul was said to still linger there. Had she set off the alarm and powered the monitors, sacrificing the trapped spirits in order to aid my escape? As I watched the entities on the screens writhed in silence, I realized the alarm's piercing sound must prevent them from phasing through walls or manifesting fully. Like unseen prisons, the frequencies kept the ghosts confined to the areas captured on camera. But the alarm was only a temporary measure. Already they were fighting through the pain, stumbling toward me with arms outstretched. The nurse had bought me precious time, but I still needed to get out before the containment failed, and the doctor came for me again. One by one, the ghostly figures turned to stare directly at the cameras, as if they could see me through the lens. Their mouths opened in unison, releasing an onslaught of harrowing screams that poured from the speakers, nearly deafening me. The alarm suddenly stopped, leaving only angry screams as the spirits on the monitors all turned and began lurching toward the control room I was in. As they drew closer, I knew I had only moments before they would reach me. I searched the desk and found an old hotel key labeled basement. It was my only chance. I fled the control room just as the ghostly horde turned the corner of the corridor. Their desperate cries rang in my ears as I somehow outpaced them, finding the basement access and locking the heavy steel door behind me. I rushed down the concrete steps as furious pounding erupted on the door above. At the bottom was a heavy vault door labeled Dr. G. Crawley authorized personnel only. His private research vault, and likely my only hope to escape whatever twisted fate the doctor had planned for me. With trembling hands, I inserted the key in the final lock, preventing my escape. I pulled open the heavy vault door, my eyes struggling to adjust to the darkness within. The stale air smelled strongly of chemicals and decay. Stealing my nerves, I stepped inside. The vault was some kind of private laboratory, littered with jars of preserved organs and fluids. I didn't care to look any closer. Against the back wall was a large medical freezer, likely where the doctor stored his unsuspecting victims. I shuddered to think what grotesque experiments may have played out in this windowless dungeon. Approaching the freezer, I noticed a series of nonsensical letters carved into the door. They almost seemed to shift in the dim light. I reached toward the handle, then thought better of it. Whatever was inside, I had no intention of finding out. The spirit's frenzied pounding echoed from the stairwell above, the steel door beginning to buckle. I had to find another way out. My eyes landed on an ancient computer terminal on a nearby desk. The system miraculously hummed to life when I pressed the power button, the computer's fans sputtering from years of disuse. A command prompt appeared, asking for an access code. I typed random numbers, but each attempt failed. I was running out of time. Glancing around, I noticed a small notepad near the keyboard. Scrawled on it were some numbers and letters of the alphabet. My intuition told me it was the code I needed. Pulling the bookshelf closed behind me, I scrambled down the lightless tunnel as fast as I could. The mad doctor's furious screams faded into the distance as I left the cursed hotel behind. Remembering the carvings on the freezer door, I matched the letters with the numbers on the notepad and frantically typed the 6-digit answer. The computer system unlocked, showing a map of the hotel's underground tunnels. They appeared to lead beyond the property. This was my escape route. The steel door above shuddered violently as the doctor's curses rang out from behind it. I felt as if I had mere seconds left. Following the map, I crawled into a musty passage hidden behind a bookcase. After what seemed like an eternity, I stumbled out under the night sky, gasping the fresh air in relief. My friends would never believe the terror I'd experienced in that abandoned hotel. They dared me to spend the night there on a stupid bet, wagering I didn't have the guts. At the time, refusing seemed unthinkable, and I didn't believe in ghosts anyway. Peer pressure and pride drove me to accept the idiotic challenge. I realize now how childish it all was. I was lucky to escape that hotel with my life. My brush with the paranormal was all too real, and I had to warn the others to stay far away from that place and its deranged inhabitants. Approaching the center of town, I turned back for one last look at the Grand Royal. Its remaining windows were like dark, evil eyes staring back at me. A deathly silence hung over it. Just then, a group of people came into view, walking straight toward the hotel. Even from afar, I recognized the leather jacket and sauntering gait of my friend Derek. The rest of my friends trailed behind. "We'll scare the shit out of him." I yelled out to them as loud as I could and broke into a desperate run. But they didn't seem to hear me, and I couldn't catch up. I watched helplessly as they reached the stone steps leading inside. The heavy front door swung open, seemingly all by itself. One by one, they stepped into the darkness, oblivious to the horrors awaiting them. The door slammed shut, sealing them in. I sank to my knees, knowing there was nothing I could do now. The doctor had fresh subjects for his demented experiments. I could only hope my former friends might somehow find a way out before the hotel claimed their lives. But then I heard their terrified screams. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please subscribe to my channel. Also, if you have a true story that is scary, creepy, or horrifying, which is well written, and you would like me to share, send the story to spinethrills@gmail.com.